Hi, I'm Mike, and today I want to tell you a story about a miracle. And I want to tell you this story because it shows you that amazing things can happen. So this was about 2 years ago, and it was at a job this warehouse job I used to work at. And my job was a warehouse manager, and as part of my job, I dealt with shipping, and we would receive these containers. Now, by that I mean, if you know the container trucks, the containers that are shipped on barges from China, you know, those big trailers. Part of my job was to empty those out, and I would do it with my former coworker. So what we would do is you would empty the container out, and then you would stack these cases on a skid, and then you would wrap it with plastic. And then I would take the forklift and drive it off into this kind of open area, and we would stack these skids. Now, at this point in time, we were going through some issues with our boss because we were running out of space, and they didn't really seem concerned about it. And these containers just kept coming in, just one after another, after another, after another, and it was getting out of control. So we kind of ran out of a solution. We didn't know where to put the rest of these skids, and it was becoming a serious issue. So a truck driver had come in, and he gave us some advice to stack them a certain way, which was to go way up high. And I wasn't too comfortable with that. But, you know, he was a professional, he knew what he was doing, so we stacked them a certain way. And now these skids were about 9 skids high. So I was a bit aggravated that day, and I remember it being in September, and it was a pretty hot day. And it was right after my lunch, and my lunch was 12 o'clock, so this was probably exactly around 12:30. So I'm walking through the warehouse, and I start noticing that some of the cases had fallen off some of the skids, and they're on the floor. So I got a little aggravated because I'm like, this is how it's going to be, you know, the skids are jam-packed in here, and now the cases are going to just start dropping. So I get in front of this huge stack of skids, and my back is to the skids, and I bend down to start picking up these cases. It was at that moment my former best friend and co-worker walked in through the door, and he just yelled this inaudible yell, this unintelligible garble. All he did was go, "Ah!" So he would always make these weird noises, and he always thought they were funny. I'm not really sure if anybody else ever did. I never did. But he would just constantly do it. So when he made this noise, for some reason, something happened. It was like a trigger. And all I knew was to jump. And I just got that out of him going, "Ah!" So I jumped left. And as I was jumping, I could feel things starting to hit me. And they were hitting my legs. And I just jumped probably like 12 feet and then just kept sliding. What had happened was the stack of skids that were directly above me began to fall. And while I was still standing there, if this was me, and these were the skids, they were actually over me like this. I was only seconds away from being crushed. Now, I know what you're probably thinking, so what's the amazing part? You know, you survived getting hit by skids because your friend yelled. Well, that's not really the big part of the story. The big part of the story is about the circumstances that were surrounding what had happened. Now, if you knew anything about my former friend, you would know his personality and how he is. And you would know that he is consistent in that. He wouldn't change his ways. So, he always went out to buy his lunch. He would always go to one of the fast food restaurants up the street. He always did it. And every once in a while, he would bring his lunch and eat it. So, he brought his lunch that day, and he forgot he did that, and he walks out to his truck, and he gets in it, and he realizes, you know, I have my lunch, so I'm going to come back to work and eat my lunch there. Now, if you knew anything about him, you would know he never does that. He just wouldn't. You know, he would rather pay than to have to walk back, period. Yet, on this one day, at this specific time, did he decide to do something out of the ordinary. And it gets a little more interesting. So he comes back, he walks into the building, and he notices that there's a huge stack of orders that we have to do for that day. And we only have about 4 hours left of the day. here's the other thing about this story. Both of us had the same attitude about work. When we were on lunch, work didn't exist. And we would not change that for the world. You know, that's how it was. So, you know, I would never stay in the building during my lunchtime. I would leave. At every time, leave. I would not stay there. Because when I was at lunch, work didn't exist. And he was the same way. When he was at work didn't exist. So there was no way that he would come back to get his lunch and then get involved in work. It just was out of the ordinary. And yet, he decided to grab all those orders and come show me. And that's what led him to coming into the area where the skids were and where I was and seeing them fall. I believe that a miracle happened that day. I believe that for some reason God was looking out for me. And I don't know why, quite honestly, I really don't, but he was. And it proves to me and to anybody else, and especially the people who were there that day, because everybody recognized those strange circumstances and everyone believed that a miracle had happened. And I believe that it proves that anything is possible. Anything is possible. You know, I could have been crushed that day. I was just seconds away from it. It would have been a gruesome death, you know, and it would have been bad enough for my family having lost me, but also to lose me in such a horrible way. And it would have sucked for me to have died at the place that I hated most. So I wanted to prove that to you. You know, if you don't believe that miracles exist, or you don't believe that there's anything amazing that could happen, you know, think again, because it can, and I'm living proof of it. So I wanted to share that with you, and I'll see you again.